Right, we ready?
Yeah, we're all moving around.
Well, I'd like to begin by saying welcome to everybody. Bishop Graham, thank you very much. Councillor Vincent, Lord Mayor, Sheriff of Norwich, and obviously Deputy Lord Lieutenant Stewart. Thank you all for coming today for what is a delayed occasion. This should have taken place in April 2020, which is when the refurbishment was due to have finished. Unfortunately, of course, we weren't able to do that then. So I'm very grateful for you all to come in, take out time out from your busy schedules to come in today and to resume the ceremony. Originally, the ceremony was going to be a large evening occasion with the ambassador, the US ambassador, coming out as well, and we would have had the rededication and then a sort of social evening. That's not all dead, we're just going to do things in bits. So we're having the dedication today, and I'll explain why in a moment, and then hopefully when things have got a little easier next year, we will have the celebration for the refurbishment and get the new ambassador up so that she can see the new library. So a little bit of the history. Hopefully you all got a sort of brief history. The library was a memorial set up by the men and women of the 2nd Air Division at the end of World War II to remember their colleagues who had been killed during the war. There were at that stage, I think, about 6,500 they numbered. Or just over 6,000 at that stage they thought they'd lost. In fact, it's now risen. We've found more, and we're about 6,700 in the Roll of Honour. What they wanted, though, is they wanted a living memorial, and so they came up with the idea of a library, which has been a fantastic idea. But it wasn't just the Americans. They got on board all the local people here, so it became a community and American thing. And right from the outset, it was a joint effort between, I think at that stage, largely the city council, because the county council hadn't really formed in the same way in those days. And we see some of the early photographs on the wall, the library story showing the early days with the Lord Mayor at the top there as it was done. And one of the things that the veterans wanted is they wanted a Roll of Honour. They wanted the Roll of Honour to be here, which is where it belonged. And so that was agreed, and I understand in American military circles, it's quite a procedure to get Roll of Honours sorted out, but they managed to do it. So the library has got a Roll of Honour. Unfortunately, and you can see from another photograph on the wall there, in 1994, the library burnt down, and in fact the library burnt down from a faulty plug which was in the American room of that library. A lot was destroyed, all our books were destroyed, a lot of the things like the John F. Kennedy letter and the royal letter were both destroyed at that time. Fortunately, we'd taken copies, so we were able to resurrect things. But the Roll of Honour was destroyed. And the library, of course, was destroyed, and it wasn't until 2001, when the Forum opened and we came back, that we were able to get back into the library. And there are some photographs there. And over 600 American veterans came back in 2001 for the ceremony of opening this library. And also your predecessor, Bishop Graham, also dedicated the new Roll of Honour which had been agreed and which you see there. We then move forward to 2018, and the nature of the organisation has changed somewhat in that obviously you can see from the photographs of 2001 and 1963 when the library opened, and in 1995 which was the sort of anniversary of the Second World War, there were masses of veterans. And they used to come every 5 years, I think, Matthew, didn't they? They would,
a number of
them would, yeah.
Since the war.
They'd have their reunions here every 5 years since the war. But obviously their numbers have dwindled over the years. They were coming, we were still getting a few veterans right up until 2019. But then of course the pandemic has, I think, probably put a stop to that. However, technology has allowed us to occasionally join in with them, and we do see a few online. So the trustees thought, well, we don't have the direct connection. We have very good connections with something called the Heritage League, and with who are largely the families of the veterans who have carried on the tradition very strongly, and we have strong connections with them. But we thought, well, how are we going to sort of keep the memory going? How do we appeal to younger generation as we move on? So we commissioned an audience survey, and one of the things that came from that was the name. The name before was the Memorial Library of the 2nd Air Division, USAAF, which is fine in itself, but didn't mean anything to people, and it was felt to be exclusive by some of the younger people. You know, they thought it's a private library, we're not allowed in, that sort of thing. And they came up with, you spend all this money, and they come up with the obvious idea of calling it the American Library. So we've called it the American Library. And that was going to be the sort of focus of the event in April 2020, the launch of American Library and the rededication of the book. So we've changed some of the displays. We've now got interactive displays, and we've been working hard throughout the lockdown. The library staff have been working hard with our contractors to try and make more and more stuff available online. We have a very large archive, and the aim was to try and bring that stuff out of the archive and put it available and accessible. And you, hopefully afterwards, when I stop talking, you can have a chance just to have a look at some of the bits and pieces that we've got. I'm very pleased with the result. And we took the opportunity, obviously, to refurbish the library itself, and it looked really nice in June 2020. But unfortunately, we then had to dismantle it all for COVID restrictions, and it's not quite so nice now. But we'll get back eventually to how it was. Which then leads to the dedication. I think, as I've already said, we've got. This is the second Roll of Honour. The first one was destroyed. Bishop Graham James dedicated this document in 2001, but we felt that because we've moved it, it was over there, and the whole sort of focus of the memorial has moved to here. We're extremely grateful, Bishop Graham, that you've agreed to rededicate it. And in setting up the new memorial, we've been able to bring in some of the faces of the people in the Roll of Honour. And these are individuals that, just a selection from across the 7,000 almost that died. And what we intend to do is to change them over every couple of years. So we've got a rolling remembrance of the sacrifice. But I go back to the beginning and say that the veterans wanted a living memorial. So although the memorial the dead is important, their real focus was to have a living memorial which would provide a lasting link, cultural link between the people of America and the people of East Anglia. And it's that we're really working with at the heart of it, this Roll of Honour to remember the dead. We turn the page every day, as is the tradition, I think, in most Roll of Honours. So I think that's enough from me. Bishop Graham, I'd be very grateful if you would dedicate or rededicate the Roll of Honour, please.
Well, thank you very much indeed. It's a great pleasure to be here and to be among you, and to join people online as well, who are also lovely to draw you into this space at this time, wherever you are in the world. Our ties with other nations are, I think, never more important than they are at this time, that we build strong relationships and understanding amongst the nations and peoples of the world. And so I think it's such a credible gift in memory of those who did die, that actually the gift is something that goes on living and evolving with time. Because even though there's been tragedy in your history and things have been lost, it's also meant that the library's been renewed. And you know, one of the really positive things is right at the front door, seeing the new acquisitions to the library, that it doesn't stop. It keeps on being refreshed with new ideas, new understanding. And I noticed also, you know, some displays about colonialism and thinking through what that means with our new eyes on it, and Black Lives Matter as well. All really important things for this generation to be reflecting on. So thank you to the governors for all of their work in refreshing the library and the work that's gone into this refurbishment. Thank you also to the staff who work here and support the work of the library, because you meet people day by day, and I hope and pray that in a sense your books don't remain pristine but become well thumbed, because that means the library's being really successful, and that you're reaching out to new audiences, which you're trying to do with this change of name, which seems a very sensible idea to me, whilst still honouring those whose original founding idea this library was, to be that living memorial. And when you look at these young men here, you know, lives of sons and brothers, perhaps some fathers, grandsons, and as a father myself of a serving officer in the British Army, I'm so very conscious of the impact on families of those who give of their lives potentially and of their time to serve this country. And of course the American pilots and aircrew were serving the wider world, not just a self-interest of America, but serving the wider peace and freedom of the whole world. So we owe them a huge debt of gratitude, as well as those who were injured in different ways or who returned home but still carried with them down the decades difficult and challenging memories, as well as the parents and the brothers and the sisters and the children who lived their whole lives without somebody they loved dearly with them. So let us pray as we rededicate this roll of honour. Almighty God, in whose glory we dedicate all that is refurbished and transformed in this library, we praise you for the completion of the works. We give thanks for the vision of the founders and those who now act as governors, for the generosity of donors and the skill of all who have worked in this place. We ask that it may continue as a living memorial to all those whose names are in this roll of honour, to those who flew from this area in the pursuit of freedom, remembering all who lost their lives and those who survived. And may it ever serve as a centre of cultural exchange between the United States of America and the peoples of East Anglia. For this sign of your grace among us, I rededicate this roll of honour in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much, Bishop. As I said, the ambassador was going to be here in April 2 years ago. He couldn't come, the standing ambassador couldn't come, but we did get a message from the embassy, which I'll read. The US Embassy sends its warm wishes and congratulations to the team at the Forum Library in Norwich, and our appreciation for everyone who has helped make the refurbishment of the American Library Memorial possible. The heart of the special relationship between the two countries is embodied not just by places like those which house our shared sacrifices, but also by the many people, all of you, who devote their time and talent to them. On behalf of the people of the United States, we are forever grateful. So that's a nice message from them. And I know that the County Council would just like to say a few words, and I think Kerry's going to say. Yeah. As I said before, again, the County Council is very much a partnership with the Trust, and so it would be nice to hear from the County Council too.
Thank you very much. So this library has a long history as a memorial to the 2nd Air Division, but also as a public library and amenity for the people of Norfolk, first opening its doors, as we've heard, in 1963. And it's an incredibly special partnership project. It's unique and special to the County of Norfolk, and we are very proud to be part of that as Norfolk County Council. The City Council at first, and later Norfolk County Council, have been happy to work over the years with the Memorial Trust of the 2nd Air Division, and that partnership also extends to the Forum Trust, who are our landlords in this building. The refurbishment project, as we know, has taken a period of time and has been planned for a while, and it's important to realise the purpose of this work in safeguarding the future of this library memorial, and to bring the stories of the men who sacrificed their lives during the Second World War to a new generation. The library occupies an enviable position in the Millennium Library here, and some of you may know that this is the busiest public library in the UK and issues more books than any others. So we very much welcome the opportunity over the next weeks, months and years to welcome more people to cross the threshold and discover more about the American experiences during World War II in Norfolk, and indeed about the experiences of the British people who welcomed the Americans to East Anglia. At Norfolk County Council, we're very proud and happy to be here supporting the American Library in its mission as a memorial and a public library going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that, I think, please take a look around. The staff will, I'm sure, answer your questions. The displays are running. Have a look at some of those, and there's tea and coffee around the corner, and maybe even a biscuit. But thank you very much again for everyone giving out their time to come this morning. It is an important memorial, and I think the fact that you're here really speaks volumes for the relationship between the people of East Anglia and the people of the United States as a bishop and county councillor. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.